but yeah, that's fine. All right, so what we're doing real quick is that we are starting out this studio by just going over a quick exercise over here in the part G. We're just talking about how to make for loops go in reverse, and then we're gonna hop into the studio. All right, so what we were talking about is that we need I to be 4 because we have to count, we are able to count 0 to 4 here because height is being 5, is being passed in there. So we need to count from 4 to 0, just to kind of see how we count backwards to maybe approach the diamond that's over in the exercise. So for that case, what we're doing here, we have our starting. But like I asked, is 4 less than 0? It is not. It is false. So will this loop even iterate?
No.
It will not, because this is false. It can only iterate while it's true. So in that case, we need to switch this to make it count and not just stop. So what we do is that we say greater than or equal to 0. So while I is greater than or equal to 0, then we console log it. Now, if we ran this, what would happen? Anybody got an idea? Let's see what happens. It will be an endless loop. We're just going to keep counting forever and ever. Because what are we doing between each iteration?
You're increasing.
We're increasing it. So what we have to do is say I minus minus here. We decrement every time we increment. Or excuse me, we decrement every time we loop. I'm not going to use that word. So we're going to run this again. And look what we do now. We count 0, 1, 2, 3, and 4. And then we go 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. So what we do is we create a for loop that counts backwards. In this case, we're able to, instead of building triangle for upright, we can build it in its reverse order, which is going down. Hence, we would be able to create a diamond. But the kicker is that we have to do part G before we're able to do part H. That's one thing we're missing, why we can't actually see that. But this is how you would be able to approach part H once G is completed.
Okay.
Does that kind of help out?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Meh.
I guess I just had I had more of like a conceptual question, like if you would want to use a while loop, like would you need it?
I would say it's going to be trickier with a while loop. I say that because we are dealing with numbers here. You're giving me a height, which is a number, and we're dealing with something of building. For loops love numbers. For loops love arrays. So everything here that's indicated to me says number. 5 is a number. I want to build something of this height, and then I want to reverse it and build something of this height downward. So all of that, again, numbers. I see numbers. So hence I would go with a for loop first. Now, if you told me build a triangle as long as something is true, then I'm seeing a conditional come into play. So that's when while loops start to come in, is when a question is being asked. And as long as that question is not satisfied, we continue to loop. That's what a while loop would typically be used for.
Yeah, I hear what you're saying. I guess I'm just thinking about it from the standpoint of like, you would want to use, an ascending for loop for like while I is less than the desired or the specified height. And then after that condition is satisfied, you would want I to be descending.
Correct, yeah. So you'd want to ascend, build the first triangle. You'd build the first triangle, and then, you'd reverse what you've been doing to build triangles and build its reflection, aka pointing downward to build the diamond.
Jen, thank you for asking. That was really, it made it so clear.
Yeah, I saw multiple people have questions about this one.
Let me see if I can, if it gives you I think what it would do. To make the line, I guess what approach did you all want to take? Did you do a for loop on making the line?
Yes, for loop. Okay. We did a for loop.
what is that? Okay, so if that's a for loop, then we do a double for loop to get the square. Yeah, it's fine. So this is, yeah, that's the tricky thing. Okay. Okay. If we have time at the end, maybe we can do that. If my brain's not completely mush, we'll take a look at that. Because that is a kind of tricky one. The tricky thing about this one is that you have to also do spaces. You have to do spaces and the octothorpe as well. So that's where the fun comes in, is that putting these spaces to that and making sure it's even. So I gotta, yeah. Good question, Jen.
They were all in the check your solution except the diamond kind, like the make line and everything. Yes.
Oh, where's the check your solution at?
Right.
Oh, it is.
Yeah.
This one. Okay, well, let me just do this then. Make downward stairs, make triangle. What'd you do? Oh, okay. So because then they make you do the space line. Okay, so we do the. Does it make a space line? Downstairs. Oh, they don't make you do the space line. Okay. Yeah. So what we would need to get is. Don't know why I did that exactly. So what we do is put the for loop in there to get the triangle. What we need to do is make the space line. The space line takes in how many spaces to do on each side. So make space line. Let's see, function. I'm sorry, I'm going really fast here just to make sure. Okay, so we need how many spaces, how many hashtags. There we go. So what we do is, oh gosh.
That's also in the check your solution.
I didn't see it in the check your solution, but I'll double check here. So it says make space. Let me see.
No.
I'm not seeing that one exactly. I'll go back and take a, maybe it's on a different page here.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm not seeing that one for a check your solution.
Sorry.
That one. No, all good. All right, so let's string. What time we got? We might have to come back to it. Yeah, we got to come back to this. I apologize, guys. We got to come back to it because we are in the studio here and it is already 9:20 and I don't want to keep people too over time. Jen, if you want to hold on at the very end, we can get this done hopefully in the next 15 minutes. But I do want to hop into the studio while I still got some brain power to actually talk.
Yeah,
is that
absolutely.
okay with you?
Yeah,
okay.
Totally.
All right. All right, everyone. In that case, we are going to be starting up the studio here. Welcome to Studio Review. As always, if you are new and joining us, no problem at all. It's going to be more laid back. If you have a question, feel free to yell it out at me. I will not be having the lecture questions channel really open. But I will hear it in the background. So if you really do want to send over lecture questions channel, I might be able to see it. I just check it less often than this. Other than that, let's get on going. How did everyone feel about the studio tonight? That's what I really want to get.
Yeah, it was good.
Okay, I hear good. Anything else?
I thought it was easier than the exercises.
Yes.
Okay, that's good. That's good. Awesome. All right. As we just saw. All right, awesome. Well, then let's go ahead and hop into it. 10.11, studio functions. The reverse method flips the order of the elements within an array. However, reverse does not affect the digits or the characters within those elements. All right, what am I actually reading here? However, reverse does not affect the digits or the characters with those. So let's just go look at the example. Hello, world 1, 2, 3, orange. Reverse, console log, orange, 1, 2, 3, world, hello. Okay, so what does it mean that doesn't affect the digits? Oh, okay. It doesn't mean, I get you. It's saying, this for my own clarity and everything, it means that it's not reversing the actual strings itself. So orange isn't spelled backwards, 3, 2, 1, it doesn't exist, things like that. Oh, perfect. What if we wanted to reverse the array to be that word, 3, 2, 1, El Dorado, whatever that is, and hola. So let's have some fun by creating a process that reverses both the order of the entries in the array and the order of the characters within the individual elements. Remember that a function should perform only one task. To allow this best practice, we will solve the array reversal by defining two functions. One that reverses the character to reverses the characters in a string or digits in a number, and one that will flip the order of the entries in the array. Okay, interesting. Let's do this. 10.11.1 reverse characters. In the In the composing functions section, we examined a function that reverses the characters in a string. I'm gonna go and open that real quick just for my memory here. Looks like it's in 10.8. All right, reverse looks neat. Cool, cool, cool. All right, first characters split, use join to create the string, blah, blah, blah. Okay, so it looks like we got some stuff to do. So what I'm gonna go ahead and do is I'm gonna open up the replit here. As always, I click that replit link on the top right. I click fork replit. Click that fork replit there, awesome. And what I forgot to do actually before this recording, I completely apologize. I'm gonna go ahead and turn on live transcripts, awesome, there we go. Perfect. Wow, this is a lot of text in here. Okay, we want to completely reverse an array by flipping the order of the entries in that. Okay, so define a reverse characters function, give it one parameter, which will be the string to reverse. Okay, that is our first task here. I just want to double check on the studio that is where we should be beginning here. Define the function reverse characters, give it one parameter, which the string will be the reverse. Perfect. Let's go ahead and do that. As always, we start out the function with the keyword function. And we say reverse characters. Cool. We started creating our functions, but functions are something that needs an extra little thing at the very end. It is very needy. And those are those parentheses. These parentheses are denoting that it is a function. And inside these parentheses are something that are even more important, which are the parameters in which the function can use. Basically, pieces or information or areas that information can be passed to. In this case, it wants reverse characters to be defined as the parameter. Cool. And then we put curly brackets where the text is going to go inside of the function. Awesome. There we go, everyone. We just completed A. Fantastic. Air high five. Bam. Let's do this. Continuing on, we're going to go to B. What I just did is I just copied in what we have to do here into the function so I can just keep track of it and just keep where B is and C is and stuff like that. Just for our benefit in general, where I'm actually at. All right, part B, within the function, split the string into an array, then reverse the array. Okie dokie. So it said we need to split the string into an array. How we split a string into an array is that we use, oh my gosh, we use the keyword split, or we use the function split. So what we say is reverse characters dot split. And what I'm going to do is I do double little spaces in there. That's saying between each character, please. So that's the parameter I include, or the argument I include there in the dot split. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a variable called let my chars, which is short for characters there. Have that all of that stuff inside of reverse characters and that array in there. And then it says we need to reverse the array. To do that, we say my chars dot reverse. Just like that. And then we need to catch the reverse portion of that. So we say my chars, please be reassigned to whatever my chars.reversed is. So there we go. This is how we can do part B. Now, if you just did, if I'm going to comment this out there for a moment, if you just put dot split and then dot reverse up here, that's also acceptable. You can definitely chain all those methods together. So that's A-okay right there. I just split it up there just for readability so we can see what we're doing line by line. Any questions up until this point?
Later on, they actually asked us to use the method chaining in another segment.
Oh, very cool. All right, awesome, awesome. All right, we will do that when it asks for it, and only when it asks for it. All right, use join to create the reverse string and return that string from the function. Fantastic. So what we do to combine all of our characters up that are now reversed, we use that method join. Join basically takes the array, combines it back into that string. So what we're going to say is that my chars equals my chars dot join. Just join it again. I can just pass in whatever I want to put between each character. In this case, nothing. So I just say that. I can also just include nothing inside the parameters there. And then it says return it from the functions. The keyword we use to return something from the function, aka give something back from the function to whoever's calling it, we use that keyword return. Remember, return is extremely powerful and such that when we see that return keyword, we'll get out of that function immediately. So we always got to make sure we're using it in the right spot, which the instructions say to use it here. So I think it's the right spot. There we go. We returned my chars right here. Awesome. So that's part C. Anything on that one?
I have a quick question, Kyle.
Yeah.
So in part B, I use the parameter variable basically the whole time. Is it better to initialize a new variable just because it's more readable and it's easier to understand that way?
Readability and also safety. So we didn't really talk about it, and I don't want to get into it, so I'm just going to say pretend and trust me when I say always try to not use the parameter when you're using it inside of your function. Redefine it to another variable. Though sometimes it's not as common to hurt you that way, it is more safe just to do so. Hence why I didn't really mention it too much in lecture, but I always recommend just assign it to a new variable because it's all going to be forgotten anyway when the function's gone, so we're barely using up any space anyway, so it's all good. Computer doesn't mind. A great question. So any other questions? Take a little drink here.
Kyle?
Yeah.
Like in the working environment, should we like avoid method chaining because of the readability?
Not necessarily. Method chaining is actually a more well practiced. So you typically don't want to. So it's always a gray zone because remember it's the human element that's truly coding all this stuff. So what is readability? But so you really got to depend on yourself. If you do like 15 lines of reassignments of variables because you have a bunch of methods in there, that's reducing readability. The same the other way. If you have 15 methods chained to each other, that is also reducing readability. So in the end, you should ask yourself, why do I have 15 chained functions right there, and can I split them in a better way? So Sean, to best answer your question, it's kind of a gray zone subject. It's like, okay, what is the true readability? In general, I would recommend method chaining. I'm just not method chaining right now for our readability to see what we're doing line by line. But I would usually recommend doing the method chaining, which it sounds like we're going to be coming back and doing anyway. So hopefully, does that help out, Sean, a little bit?
Yes.
Awesome. I know it was a little ambiguous, so perfect. All right, any other final questions? All right, let's keep going then. It looks like below this function, define and initialize a variable to hold a string. So it says we're getting out of this function. So I'm going to take this back. We're going to go below the function here. I was hoping we were going to go below the function because, again, I put that return keyword there. So we better be getting out of this function. All right. It says we need to define and initialize a variable to hold a string. Okay. Well, we're going to say then, I haven't heard it say that it's going to be a non-changing string. So I'm just going to assume right now it's going to be a let. I have a feeling that somehow we're going to be doing something with this thing. So I'm going to say let my string var equal, no, I'm just not going to put equal to anything. It didn't tell me really what to put it there. Fine, and initialize. Oh, no, it did. It said initialize. All right, sorry, Kyle. All right, there we go. I'm just initialize to empty string. Why not? I really want to put a let here now.
Hey, Kyle, I have a question.
Yeah, what's up?
Okay, so the direction is to define and initialize a variable to hold the string. And I guess in my head, I thought that's what my characters is doing on line 10, basically. Like, I thought you could use that variable,
So
like my chars.
Yeah, if I console log down here outside of the function and type, and I ran this, what would happen?
I guess you'll get nothing because does that not exist outside of the function?
You're absolutely correct. Yeah, not only will we get nothing, we'd actually get an error at that point. I have like a little fuzzy thing right there. Yes, you're absolutely right. So we would get an error actually because my chars has not been defined out here. So to answer your question, my chars is only holding the string in here within this moment, whenever we're in the function. Once we're outside of the function, it's gone, it's forgotten.
Okay.
Hence why we return it, and we want to remember it in this string out here, or in this new variable out here, outside of the function.
Okay.
So yeah, once that function is done running, my chars is forgotten about. But luckily, again, we return it, so we can actually, hopefully, work to remember it. So any other questions before we keep going? Oh, yeah, okay. All right, so we officially defined and initialized a variable to hold the string. Use console log reverse characters, my variable name, to call the function and verify that it correctly versus king. Okay, so that's what we got to do. We got to call So it looks like it says it wants me to run this whole big shebang here. So you know what I'm gonna do? I'm gonna lazily paste it. There you go. So we did have a console log and then reverse characters. Reverse characters, again, remember, is the name of the function up here. Then it takes in a parameter, which we provided this argument right here. Now, okay, this is a Kyle honest fact. I use parameter in argument. I actually do not like the word argument. I'm trying to use it correctly for this, but if it's confusing, I always think of these two things almost as the same exact thing. It's just literally just a tunnel to me from here into the function to give it information. So if I mess up those words, I completely apologize. I'm trying to keep them straight. But yeah, I always like don't understand why they're called two different things. It's the thing. It's the thing that goes in that thing that goes, whatever. Anywho, we need to pass in my variable name. My variable name does not exist. We created this variable up here. So what I'm going to do is replace that with my string var. And now I see what it meant by initialize. I mean, okay, what actually wants me to put a word in there? Someone out there, please provide me a word that I can spell.
Tulip.
That's right on the line there, Hannah. Tulip. Again, I failed and it still resonates with me when I couldn't spell vacuum right on the 7th grade. What do you call it? Spelling test or not spelling test? Spelling, no, it was like the spelling bee, the big thing. I could not spell vacuum, got out the first round. I practiced for days for that thing and got out the first round. Cannot spell.
It was trowel for me.
What was it?
Trowel.
Prowl?
Troweled with a T.
I don't even know what that is. Well, at least you know what a vacuum is. That's honorable to go down like that. I can barely spell tool. I think I got that right.
Trowel is a gardening tool.
Oh, is it the little fingers?
No, it's like a little spade.
Oh, I thought it was just called a little spade. See, I don't even know. All right. Oh my gosh. All right. Okay. We gotta at least run this code once. We keep chatting. Let's go ahead and run this, see what happens. Ooh, I don't like that. Oh, I don't like that at all. It has P, I, L, U, and T, but it's separated with commas there. I think because my join is messing up. It looks like it joined it back together with those commas. So what this means is that I know my reverse worked because it is in reverse. It looks almost like pilot, but it's pilot. I know my split worked because it was able to reverse it. That just leaves this little culprit down here, the join. So I know my join didn't work, my crud. And I'm like, okay, what?
Need quotes in there.
Exactly. So we got to work our way into what is actually going on. So you're absolutely right. Join, I guess, does take in a parameter. It does, by default, do commas, I guess, but I need to put something in there. So you're absolutely right. I need to put in a parameter, which is just empty quotes there to say, I just want nothing in between it. So now I'm going to run it again. And now it's looking a lot prettier. Awesome. That's what I like to see. Anything on that part right there. All right. Then we're on to part F here. F for function. Use method chaining to reduce the lines of code within the function. All right. Finally, let's do it. We're going to go ahead and reduce it. Now remember, method chaining or function chaining, either one you want to use there. We just use the dot and then the name of the function next to each other. But we got to do it always in order. Remember, we go sequentially, but we also go line by line. Or excuse me, we go, I guess, how would you do that? We read left from right, technically, in those method chainings. So we go left from right. So this was our first one. Reverse is second, and join is our third. Again, left from right. Split needs to be first. Reverse needs to be second. And then join needs to be third. I just, you know, I can shrink this guy up. There we go. So do that because Tulip doesn't take up too much space. Perfect. And now what we can do is I'm just going to comment out our old lines of code here. Awesome. But we still need return because we still need to give it back there to the function. Awesome. So cool. We just method changed. So we put split and then it reverses, then it joins, and then it brings all of whatever it just did in those three little functions back into my chars. And we press run. And we still get the same exact output. Let's try this again. Give me one more word here.
Trowel.
Trowel.
Trowel? Is that trowel?
Yes.
Okay, I'm going purely on just pure guessing. Let me tell you, all the environments luckily have spell check. Anyway, that is trowel, which I still don't believe you all. I think you all are just literally giving me April Fool's early right now. Sure, tiny spade, whatever. That is it backwards. Our method chaining is working. So awesome. Part F is done there. I'm gonna bring that up to what we just did.
Kyle?
Yes, Hannah.
In our group, I don't know if it is correct or not, but what we did was we just returned, we put the whole method chaining right beside return.
Absolutely, we could definitely do that. To reduce it one more time and not even bother the computer to create this let my chars variable, what we can do is actually just take that whole shebang right there and put it right in there. And I'm still gonna keep this in here just for our records. But yeah, we can definitely do that. And just so we have one return there, we run that again. Awesome.
But it is correct. I mean, we can do it, right? It is a good practice. Okay.
You absolutely can do this. So this is just taking all that chopped up pieces, so we're not able to really see what we're doing line by line. If you're comfortable with that, feel free to do this. This is absolutely well practiced, and you can definitely do it. Absolutely. Yeah.
Thanks, Kyle.
Yeah, for sure. Any other questions on this one? Because I believe this completes number 1. Going once, going twice. Sold to number 2. All right, let's hop into it then. Oh, it's optional. Didn't even see that. They didn't even write optional in the, that's tricky launch code. All right, 10.11.2, reverse digits. The reverse characters function works great on strings, but what if the argument passed to the function is a number, ? Use console log reverse characters 1, 2, 3, 4 results in an error since split only works on strings. Yes, that is true. It says try it. All right, we will try it. 1, 2, 3, 4. We run it, and we see that reverse characters split is not a function. Very, very true, because reverse characters is technically a number. Remember, the number is passed up here. So reverse characters is technically 1, 2, 3, 4, the number. So 1,234, whatever. Split does not work on that because a number is not a string. Apple is not an orange, says my 8th grade math teacher. So we are not able to do that. So we are all good. So what we need to do is all this stuff. Do they have those steps in here? They do. All right. But do we need to do this on the existing function is the question. Let's see. Add an if statement to the reverse characters to check the type of parameter. If the type of is a string, blah, blah. If the type is a number, blah, blah, blah. All right. All these points are in our text. What I wanted to get out of it was, do we have to update the existing function? And we absolutely do. So in that case, we're going to go over here and we're going to read A through, what is it? A through E. Kind of. A through B to D and then E. All right. So let's go ahead and update our function up here. I'm going to clear that out, put all this. So number 2, use the split method if it does not work in the numbers. Okay, so add an if statement to your reverse characters function. That's what we have here to check the type of parameter. All right, we're going to start with that first. Now the question is, okay, they told us to use an if statement, but where do we use the if statement? Now take a close look at our function here. And what we're going to do actually is that we are going to go back to the back in the day stuff. I'm just returning my chars here just to help us out. Now the question is, where do we put the if statement? Now if we look at this function, if we're going down here, what's the first line that would cause an error if we gave it a number? The answer is line 17. If we had 1, 2, 3, 4 in here again, line 17, and I'll show you again, we'll run this. Line 17, as we see right here on our right-hand side for the console log, says we cannot get to line 17. Therefore, to protect us against this, the best place to do this, or the best place to put our if statement, is above line 17. So we need to protect line 17 from getting a number. So that's why we're going to do that here. So if type of string. So now we got to check the type of our variable here, or excuse me, our parameter. That is what we're going to do. Oh, that's not what I want to do. Okay. So that's what we need to do. We need to ask the type of our actual, or our parameter. So that's what we're going to do. We use the keyword type of. And that's what gets our type of our variable for us. And we say reverse characters. Now, the fun thing about this is that a type of reverse characters returns a string of what the type is. So it says that if it is of type string, return it as normal. So if type of reverse characters equals, and then the string representation of the word string, which is just all lowercase string, we do the exact normal stuff. We'll return, we'll actually go back to what we were originally doing there. Gosh darn it, my house is cold right now. We will just return the reverse characters as the split there. So if it is a string, if reverse characters is of type string, then we will give back exactly what we were doing in the previous portion. So let's go and run this again and see what happens. Oh, might be. So I'm going to return reverse characters right now just because my charts doesn't exist. There we go. So we return that and everything's honky-dory. So what just happened? Essentially, we just added an if statement to check if the type is of type string. If it is, then we're able to go in there and split it, reverse it, and join it back together. So this is awesome. We only should be doing this if it's a string, hence this check up here. So this if statement is basically protecting that for us, which is awesome. That's what we need. Otherwise, we get a bunch of red on the right-hand side. That's not what we want to see. So real quick, I'm going to pause there. Any questions on that? All right. Well, let's keep getting a little bit deeper here. So if it's a type string, return the reverse string as before. That's what we did. The next part, if type of is number, then convert the parameter to a string, reverse the characters, then convert it back into a number, return the reverse number. Okie dokie. So, pop quiz. I want to check if it's a number. We know how to do that with the type of, but I want to do another if statement here. Do I do an else if, or do I do an if? Do I do anything different?
Else.
We can do an else if. Very good. Absolutely right. Else if. Because basically these cases are related. If it's not a string, then maybe it's a number. When we kind of have that system or that relationship right there, that's when we do those else ifs. When the cases are chained, basically our situations are kind of chained or related together. So yeah, you're absolutely right. I want to do an else if. Characters equals number. All right, now it's the fun part. We need to, it says, convert it to a string before we do any of that stuff. How do we convert something to a string? Anybody remember that?
Yeah, with string.
String before it.
String, awesome job. Reverse characters, and then we place what we want converted into a string inside of those parentheses. Awesome. So that's how we convert it, and AKA that's how we cast something to something different. Sounds like something from Harry Potter. All right. So what we will have then is let num string equal that. So now we have a string representation of a number. Now we are able to run this whole thing on it. Cool. That's so neat. Num string. And then we do that. Awesome. All right, so now it's a string down there on line 19. We split it, we reverse it, and we join it back together. So now our num string is reversed, and we're going to go ahead and console log that just so we can make sure it was actually working. So we're going to say num string. We run that, and look at what we're getting back here. 4, 3, 2, 1. Remember, this 1, 2, 3, 4 is just replit being replit. Please don't pay any attention to replit being its old self. I know, right? Replit. All right, so we console logged it out, but it is still a string here. How we can prove that is so we say type of here. We run that. It says string. So what do we need to do at the last moment? What do we need to do next?
Change it into number, convert it into a number.
Very good. So we can go ahead and just return. Well, no, I don't like to do that. And say num string equals number of num string. And now we console log that num string. We're going to say the type of. And just like that, we run that. And it goes from string to a number. Fantastic. So we're good there. And then we return num string. And we run that. And we are doing A-OK. We're reversing that number now. Awesome. So we're going to pause there for a moment because we just did another big fun section. Any questions on what we just did there?
Kyle,
Yeah.
I know the studio only asked us to check string and the number. So, but what if it asked for a Boolean also? Then we just put another else if, or?
So we have to ask yourself in that situation, if I gave you true or false, or sorry, if we gave you a number, or we gave us a number, 1, 2, 3, 4, we reverse it, and we make it 4, 3, 2, 1. Is 4, 3, 2, 1 still a number?
Yes.
Yes. Now, if you pass in a Boolean, true, you come down here and you reverse the Boolean to EURT. Is EURT still a Boolean value?
Yes.
What are the two values of Booleans? What are the only two values ever in the world that can be Booleans?
True and false.
True and false.
False.
Is EURT a Boolean value?
Oh, okay. No, it's not.
Exactly. So we can't reverse Booleans and then convert them back into Booleans
Oh,
because the reverse of Booleans cannot be Booleans. At that point, we have to just keep them as strings. So to answer your question, yeah, we could just make another case and take it in as a Boolean, convert it to a string, but we'd never be able to reconvert it to a Boolean.
okay. Sorry, it was silly.
No. Great question. No, absolutely fine. But no, it's kind of like a game. It's a little bit of a mind teaser. Like we're able to do with strings and numbers, but yes, Booleans are a little bit more strict. They only allow two values, and unfortunately, their reverse values are not up to their standards. So no, great question. Absolutely.
Thanks, guys.
Yeah. Any
I
other
have a question.
Yeah, Rena.
Okay. In case of array, is this function is gonna work in array number? Can we
Where are we talking?
Can we use this this function in case of array number, like if you put array 2, 5, 10, like this way number array, can we make this reverse or sort?
So for this particular function that we're doing, we only are doing characters. So
Right?
only words or numbers right now. So nothing with arrays just yet.
Not array. Okay, just string. Okay.
Yep, just the string of the numbers just for right now.
Yeah, okay, that's fine. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. I think we're going to be getting to the arrays. It's kind of what they hinted at here soon. So I think we're going to get into that in a moment.
Okay.
So we have our strings there. Let's keep going down. I think we had one more piece here. Sorry. Are there any final questions about our part B to D? All right, let's hop into E then. Be sure to print the result returned by the function to verify that your code works for both the strings and the numbers. Do this before moving to the exercise. All right, they were pretty big at it. All right, let's go ahead. Let's see, trowel, some random word. Still looks like it works. Awesome. And then I'm just going to pass in 1961. Lol. Still as a kid, a mind bender. Whenever they said, like, if you just reverse this, like if you go upside down, like it's the same year. I was like, what? That's crazy. But it looks like if we reverse it the other way, it is. It's 1691. 1691. Awesome. That's the only way I can remember. It's really bad. Don't ever tell my dad this. It's the only time I can remember his like year is that it was that one flippy year that you could do. Like literally only way I remember his year. And then my mom's like 2 extra, like +2. I was like, okay. I just learned their birthdays like 3 years ago. Thank God to Google Calendar. Anyway, terrible son here. Let's continue on. It looks like everything is working. All right. We are on to 10, 11, 3. Before we do this, any final questions before we keep on moving?
So mine is not working. Like I feel like I'm doing the exact same thing as you, but I always have problems with my else if, like it always highlights. I don't know if I'm doing something weird around there.
Does the highlight give you, when you run it, do you have an error or anything?
It does have an error. It just like, let me look at it.
What does the error say?
Let's see. It says home runner functions exercise 0 through 5. Okay, JS8, and then it has the else if, and then the if has like a little under it.
So whenever we get an error, so we'll go over to an error here. So when you are provided an error here, so what we're gonna do is say true. I'm trying to see how we can throw an error here. No, that's still gonna work. Dang it.
Just throw an extra curly bracket in there somewhere.
Yeah, that's really all it takes.
Here, yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and do this one. So when we get an error here, my string. So we're gonna get a lot of words here. So what we look for particularly is what kind of error it is. So if your TA or anybody else asks you what the error is, always like look at, so is it a reference error? Is it a syntax? Is it some kind of else error? And then it should tell you on the first line too what line it's on. So if it says else if, make sure there's a space between your else and your if.
There is.
Okay.
It's like pointing at my if. Say syntax error, unexpected token if.
Do you have a curly bracket at the end of your if, or you're on at the end of your else?
Let's see. No.
All right.
It goes curly bracket else if, regular bracket type of space reverse character space equal 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 space.
In that case, make sure that all of your curly brackets have a partner.
Okay.
Yeah, I ended up with an extra one and mine wouldn't run, but I found it. And it had a little red squiggle under it, so it was very helpful to find it.
That is the biggest thing. And even today with me, like extra curly brackets throw off all the code and they give you the weirdest errors too, because the compiler has no idea how to make heads and tails of your code if there's one curly bracket out of sync. Even a square bracket has no idea what to do because it can't line up its error compiler with where the actual true error is at. So yes, that is the best thing to do. And hence, if you see me always coding, this is one thing I should have actually said earlier. If you see it as I code down here too, I format all of my stuff. And I don't do that because I like things pretty, which yes, OCD deep down, but it's also because in those times when I need to find the missing curly bracket, I can easily come in here and see what is inside each curly bracket. Take a look at the function here. The function is right up against the wall. My curly brackets start and end here, and I always have a tab within it. I know everything that's inside of those curly brackets the moment I look at it. If I have another one down here, I would ask myself, why do I have two curly brackets against the wall right next to each other? That immediately indicates to me that I have something out of whack.
Yeah, and that one has the little red line under it. And if you highlight it, it doesn't highlight its partner because it doesn't have a partner.
Very good. But if I put a curly bracket right here, this syntactically is the incorrect one, but it still highlights the one down here. Because again, our compiler can't make heads or tails which one is the correct one. It's up to you as the human. Only you can prevent ungrouped, I guess, curly brackets. I don't know how to exactly make a poster about that one, but as you can see, it's hard to really diagnose that. But when you get weird errors like that, it typically means that there's a curly bracket out of whack.
All my curly brackets have a partner, so I don't know.
The other thing too, we can take a look at the end if you're still getting that error. But if you want to direct message me over it, I can take a quick look at it.
Okay.
All right, as you're doing that, let's go ahead and hop into number 3 here. All right, 10.11.3, complete reversal. Now we're ready to finish our complete reversal process. Create a new function with one parameter, which is the array we want to change. The function should A through F. Again, we're going to go over to the replit and read those A through Fs. Fantastic. All right, we're going to go ahead and create a new function. Define, initialize an empty array. Well, okay, that's kind of demanding. Wait, create a new function. Okay. Calm down. Number 3 says create a new function. So we got to create a new function. I thought it would at least give us a function name. All right, well, we got to create a new function. So let's say function reverse array. Our complete reverse array, I guess. Sure, why not? Complete reverse array. Awesome. It says it also needs to take in the array we want to change. So I'm going to just say ARR, which abbreviates array. Awesome. All right, now we need to, it says, I'm going to assume it means inside of the function. We need to define and initialize an empty array. Not too bad of an idea. Const? Yeah, I'll say const. My new array. And I initialize it by saying equals and then to the open and close square brackets there. So awesome, part A is done. So any question about the start of 3 and or A? All right, let's go into the new fun stuff here. We're gonna go ahead and do B, which says loop through the old array. Now, we're gonna loop through the old array, but we have a few loops to choose from. When we're looping over an array, what tool do we typically use? Spit all over myself. A for loop, very good, yes. When we are working with arrays or numbers in general, we're typically gonna be using a for loop. Let's say let I equal 0, I less than array dot length. I plus plus, fantastic, there we go. So now we have the for loop and it's able to loop to the length of the array, but I need to loop over the array. It says loop through the old array, but it doesn't tell me what to do with the old array. So I'm kind of just gonna hope that C kind of clears that up because I have no idea what to do with the array itself. I can print it out to the screen, but it didn't say to print it out to the screen, just said loop over it. Well, I have the tools to do so. I'm sorry, what was that? Okay. All right, and let's hop into C here because hopefully this will give it something. So I'm gonna take C up here, placed it hopefully within the for loop. All right, for each element in the old array, call reverse characters to flip the characters or digits. Neat. Let's go ahead and do that. It said to call the reverse characters array, or excuse me, reverse characters function. And then it says I need to flip the characters or the digits. Well, let's see the reverse characters function up here. All right, here it is, reverse characters function. I look in here, it takes in a parameter. Of course we knew this because it was what, 15 minutes ago we were working on this. I get it, but it's always good to go up to your function and check. What does the function want? What does it want to eat? Think of those parentheses as a mouth. It wants to eat something. It wants to eat your reverse. It wants to eat a character to reverse. And that's what we're going to give it. So inside of those parentheses, we are going to give it something to reverse, which is going to be stored in the ARR, the thing that we're passing into the complete reverse array function. So what we do is we say ARR at index I. I, of course, is going to start at 0, go to whatever the length of the array is, increment every single time in between. Cool. All right. We are reversing it. All good there. The next thing we need to do is it says we need to add the reverse string or number to the array defined in part A. Okay. So what we can do here is we can say reversed char, reverse character, whatever, string number, and then we got to add it to my new array. Now, for the people out there, wake on up. How do I add something to an array?
Push.
Push.
Push. There we go. Yeah, I know my voice gets boring after a while. I try to keep it as energetic and as nerdy as possible, but you know what? Sometimes it slips under the radar. So wake up, help me out with this so we can get off this earlier. You're absolutely right, though. It is dot push. Yes, the reverse char. We're going to push it into that my new array. Awesome, awesome. All right, so we add the reverse string to it. We're going to bring that up here. C and D are basically in the same. Well, technically it's down here. So there we go. We put D down there. Awesome. Return the final reversed array. Be sure to print the results from each test case in order to verify your code. All right, so it says we need to return the final array. So it says, so what we need to do is that we need to return our my new array dot reverse because it says we need to reverse the array. Cool, easy enough. Yeah, we reverse it, and now we need to be sure to print out the results from each of the test cases to verify. Let's go and do that. The final little step here, and then we'll pause for questions. Complete reverse array here for array test 1. Laziness is taking over. I'm going to copy this. Give me 1 second here. Let's just finish this guy up, and then I will take that 2, and then 3, and then yes. What was that?
Why in line 68? Why do we have to reverse it again? Because doesn't reversed character function? I don't know.
So remember, we're going to be kind of doing a double reverse here. If we go over to our studio, what we do is that we reverse the characters inside of the array, such as orange turns into this. So this is the first reverse. And now we have to actually reverse the contents of the array as well. So orange has to be at the 0th index.
Yeah.
1, 2, 3 has to be at the second or first index, etc. and so forth. But orange and 1, 2, 3 have to also be reversed. So
Okay.
double reverse.
Thank you.
Absolutely. Any other questions about that?
Yes, Kyle, I've got one. I tried
Yeah,
to be
Steve.
clever about what I was doing, and it's not quite working, and I need help. I thought I was screwing up the for loop, but I did exactly the same thing that you did, so that's fine. But then what I tried to do is essentially that instead of reversing the arrays, I popped it. I used the pop method throughout the loop. See what I'm saying? And then, so I don't remember all the logic, and I'm trying to explain what I did.
No.
but-
Okay, so you're removing items from the old
So
array as you're
I-
looping through it.
So I pushed into the new array using the reverse characters function we already created
Mhm.
Onto the return pop elements. So essentially, I took all of the last index, flipped it, and put it into the new array. So it did everything that I wanted, which seems like it would be fine. But like when I run the whole thing, then I'm missing elements in each of those arrays.
I'm
As
assuming
in,
you're
like,
missing about 2 elements from each array if it's 4.
So in array test 1, I'm missing 1. I only have 2 elements, not 3. In the second one, I have 3 elements instead of 5. And in the third one, I have 2 instead of 4, right?
So
Which
tell me
doesn't
this.
make sense.
When
Yeah.
we're going through the for loop, we start at 0,
Mm-hmm.
correct?
Yep.
So let's go ahead and take a look at apple, potato, and capitalized words in this example.
Okay.
We're looping through this. We start at 0. Apple is at 0, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Awesome. So we looped through it, and you said that you reversed it. You did all that stuff, correct? And you said you
Yeah.
popped it out of the array.
So essentially, yeah, when the first time that it goes through with the order of things that it does is that it pops capitalized words, like in this case, then reverses it and puts it into the new array.
So you
Then
still
it goes-
popped the array, correct?
Yeah.
So tell me this. At index 0, we're just gonna go through this quick example.
Mm-hmm.
So apple is at 0th index. Now
Yep.
say I'm looping through it. I'm going to length of what? What would my for loop go to? If I'm going to the length of this array right now, what would my length be?
Right now it's 4, right?
Well, it's gonna be
it's
3
three,
here.
it's
So
three,
we're gonna
sorry,
be,
it's
yeah, length 3. No, you're all good, you're all good. So my I at this point is gonna be 0. I'm gonna see apple.
Mm-hmm.
So awesome. I'm gonna pop apple out of here.
Well, on your brain,
Now-
pop capitalized word is the last one, no? That it
Well,
pops.
so bear with me, I promise.
Okay,
It'll
sorry,
still
go
resonate.
ahead.
No, you're good.
All
It'll resonate with you too. So we're just looking at that array here on the screen there. So like I
Mhm.
said, we loop through at the 0th index, I equals 0. After we read apple, we popped it. What's I gonna do next when it tries to iterate the next time?
Yeah.
What is it? What happens?
So I'm having exactly the same. So the length is shortening every time that goes through the loop.
Well, not
but I'm
necessarily the length.
incrementing up.
Don't even worry about the length. I increments now to 1, but we popped apple. So what is the first index now of this array?
Capitalized words.
So if we did that and we popped it, what word did we just skip?
Potato.
We missing
Potato. We missed potato. The greatest food. I don't even know if it's a vegetable or whatever. We missed something though. So what we just learned from that example is that we should never manipulate the array, as in increase or decrease the array, when we're looping through it.
This is what you told me last week too, actually.
No worries. And this is the thing as we see. If we push or pop, we are manipulating the array while we're still dependent on its size
Mhm.
and
I see
its
it.
exact location. So we cannot do that.
All right, I see it. Thank
So
you.
how dare
Sorry
you
about
not
that.
listen to me? This is what happens. You're going to blow up a computer, Steve.
Okay, I'm gonna try not to. Promise. Last time.
No, that's a great question too. And I immediately, when you said that, I remember, and I myself got like chills down my back. Like, I've been there. I get yet. And I was like, completely understand. So awesome. No. That's what it was. It was just missing, it was jumping over. We're going to see that kind of, jumping kind of activity there doing that. So awesome. No, great, fantastic question right there.
Just so you know, a potato is a tuber and you can dig it up with a trowel.
Both fake words. You're
We've
inventing
come a
your
full
own language.
circle.
I have no idea what's going on. That's hilarious. Oh, all right. Tuber? Is that really what it is?
Yep, it's a tuber.
I thought it was a root. Oh my gosh. See, this is why I fail trivia.
But it's not actually the root. It's a thing that grows off the side of the root. Whereas a carrot is a root.
Wow. Thanks.
I would fail gardening class so hard.
I'm so good at trivia night.
You're invited to my. I've only ever won one round in my life. So, like I said, Mars was what won that one. So that is awesome.
When you
I'm
run
a
it, does it
sports
still say
trainer. I don't know
trowel?
anything about sports.
Believe no, it's gonna have that right there. So let me go here to my string's not defined. I put that up here. When I took out that extra curly bracket. So yeah. All right. We'll hop back on task. Yeah, there we go. All right. So we're gonna go and run this now. So we have to do that last part of the F here. So we got to run all of these tests here. So we're gonna go and run this now. Go on the right hand side. Oh, we are not printing them out. Let me go ahead and do that. So what we're gonna do is wrap these in a console log so the human eye can actually see them. Here we go. Awesome. All right, moment of truth. Cue drum roll, and me talking. Awesome. Why do we have another console log here? Okay, I was like, what the heck is that? We're gonna get that guy out of there. What I just did there, if you ever want to find part of your code, all you gotta do is press Control F or Command F if you're on a Mac to search for a specific thing. What I just searched for was console. I'm gonna run that again, and what we're seeing now is me not knowing what I'm doing. There we go. I'll run that. Perfect. So now we are seeing everything fully reversed. Let's go down and double check. So we see that the first one, it was capitalized word in the very end. This should be the first and reversed. We see a giant thing here that looks like capitalized words reverse first. So that looks perfect.
Yeah.
Awesome. All right, same with potato and same with apple. Coming down here, we see a bunch of numbers, a long one, a shorter one, a very short one, etc. It looks like we are getting that back as well. And then finally, orange, 3, 2, 1. That word, and then, yeah, the other word, oh. So it looks like this is working properly. So I'm gonna pause it here. Any questions about this whole part of the exercise? I believe after that, let's see, I think, is that the next one? Oh, sorry, I'm right there. Complete reversal, there we go. Yeah, that's the last one before our bonus mission. So anything about this before we hop into the bonus missions?
Mine is still reading trowel. I don't know what I did, if I missed something, like maybe you were going through.
So if it's still reading trowel, we were up here on line 37. I took out that console log so it stopped printing trowel.
Okay.
Excuse me. And then I wrote these short ones down here for part F as it told us to in the exercise.
Okay.
All right. Any other questions here? In that case.
There it is. I see it.
Awesome. All right, guys. In that case, that is the end of this studio. So yes, it is always late. Feel free to stick around for those bonus missions because we're going to be diving into them now. I feel like everyone's eyes are just like, this is what we've been waiting for. Yeah, we got all the other stuff done. Give us the good stuff. Like, all right, let's get into the good stuff. 10.11.4 bonus missions. Number 4, define a function with one parameter which will be a string. The function must do the following. Have a clear descriptive name like fun phase. Retrieve only the last character from the strings with a length of 3 or less. Oh my gosh, all right. Retrieve only the first 3 characters from the strings with lengths. Oh my gosh, this is quite a bit. All right, A through E, and build your function at the replet. So I'm gonna go ahead and skip down here for E for a moment, open up the replet and see what we have to work with. As always, we open this up top, right click for replet, and then it should open up the function exercises 0, 1. Awesome. All right. So let's go ahead and just start at the top, work our way to the bottom as always. Define a function with one parameter, which will be a string. The function must do the following. All right, well, before we even look into that, let's do the low-hanging fruit here. Oh, and that is a block comment, so I can't do the thing. So I'll come down here and do it. To start writing our function, as always, we start with the keyword function. TI1. And what is it going to do exactly? A string. I don't know what this is going to do, so I'm going to just call it Kyle's function for right now. I have no idea. It says it needs one parameter, which will be a string, so I'm going to say str for this case. Sometimes you'll see functions out there, especially if you're looking at things online, with two distinct words. Some are foo and some are bar. These are very just randos names when they don't need to describe what a function actually does. It's just a very general name. So if you ever see foo or bar, if you're military, it's hilarious, but also for coding, that's what they use just for generic function names. In this case, I'm just going to call it Kyle's function for right now, but if I do that in the future, that's why I'm doing it. So again, it's just kind of filler function name for the time being. All right, so on to A, have a clear descriptive name. Well, I already failed number one. Number two, I don't even know what this function does yet. When I find out what the function does, then I can create a name for it. But until we have the meat or the context of what we're dealing with, I can't create a descriptive name. Let me double check that I'm not missing something in bonus missions. Okay, yeah, it hasn't really told us what we're going to be doing. So let's keep going on. B, retrieve only the last characters from the strings with lengths of 3 or less. All right, well, isn't that going to be a fun one? All right, retrieve only the last characters from strings with lengths of 3 or less. All right, we need to retrieve the last 3 characters of a string of 3 or less. So what does this sound like? Do we collect the last 3 characters of any string? Any string, anything under the sun?
No, just the ones that are less than 3 characters.
Exactly. We are collecting those last 3 characters on a condition. On a condition that it has more than 3 characters. Wait.
No, less than
3 or less. On a condition that it is a character of 3 or less. The last character. Okay. So in that case, we are on a condition to do this action. If we are on a condition, we need to use a conditional. What tool uses a conditional?
Why? If.
An if statement uses conditionals. We need to check to see if our string is of at least 3 or less. So we say if str.length is less than or, let's see, of 3 or less, less than or equal to 3, then we're able to do this. Awesome. And we need to retrieve the last character from the strings with lengths. Okay, so we need to get the last character. So I'm going to say const last char, because it's not going to change. It's always going to be that last character. I'm going to say string. And then I need to get the ending character from that string. Now, how would I do this? Anybody have an idea of how they would want to approach this one?
Oh. Slice.
We could do slice possibly. We did slice, what would we have to know?
Or pop.
Pop, we can't do pop. Pop is only for arrays.
It is, yeah, that's true.
So technically we could possibly split it and then pop it, but
Slice.
that's a lot of stuff. We could do slice. How do we get an actual just character back from a string?
Call it.
An index.
We need a bracket index, very good. If we just want to get one character back from a string, all we need to do is call it to its bracket notation. Now remember, if I type in for string, and again, this is just an example, if string is tomato, and I said, I just want 0th index back, I just want the T back here, I'd say, I just want str of 0. Now remember, if string is just tomato, str of 0 is just T. But in this case, we want to get the last character. We want to get 0, we want to get not 0, we want to get O. We want to get the O here. What would I put?
String str.length.
Well, in this case, we do 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. So technically, we put 5 here. We put 5 here. If we want to get the O back from tomato, we put 5 here. Now, the last character here is 5. Tomato is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, the length of 6. So if we just pass in tomato all the time, it will work perfectly. We'll always get it back if we just type in 5 here. But how can we make this 5 more dynamic to any string coming in? And I actually already heard that.
String.length.
We want to do string.length.
Minus
But remember,
one.
string.length on tomato would return 6, but we needed the index of 5. So what do we need to do?
Minus
Exactly right. We need to do -1. This will get the last char right here. The length -1. So we'll always get the last character. Any questions on that? All right. Well, let's keep diving into it a little bit deeper then. So we have retrieved the last character if and only if the string.length is less or equal to 3. Continuing on, retrieve only the first 3 characters from the strings with the lengths larger than 3. All right. Well, if it is less than or equal to 3, then we do this. Is there any case, or what do we need to put next, I guess, is my indication. I'm really wanting to pick your all's brain.
Else if.
Else if.
Just else.
Very good. I heard it. Just else. Is there ever going to be a special case where if our string, or that our string length, if it is less than or equal to 3, will be greater than 3?
No.
Can 2 ever be greater than 3? Or sorry, yeah,
No.
can 2 ever be greater than 3? Exactly. For numbers, if we think of a number line, we just said if it's 3 or anything lesser than that. Otherwise, it has to be greater than 3. AKA, we can just put an else here, or an otherwise. Yeah, we would just actually just need to put else for this example. So retrieve only the first 3 characters from the string. Okay, retrieve only the first 3 characters from the strings with lengths of larger than 3. All right, so const first 3 chars. Now for this one, what do we want to use?
Slice. Oh.
I saw you, and Amy, I saw you mouthing it out. Don't worry, I'm giving you credit. It is slice, absolutely right. But we need a couple parameters here. Anybody have those ideas for those parameters?
3.
Well, this one is our start number. We need to collect the first 3 characters.
0,
3.
4.
0 to 3, very good. Awesome, awesome. Now this one's always tricky because we never really know if it's going to slice at 3, giving us 4 characters, or stopping at 3. Even up to this day, I always forget. I always forget. So what we're going to do is we're going to console log first 3, and we're going to just honestly test out our function up until this point. So we're going to give it 2 things, the last char there. So what we're going to do is we're going to say Kyle's function, because again, I have no idea what they are doing with this thing. We're going to give it Tom. And then Kyle's function is going to be, what's a word greater than 4 letters?
Tomato.
Okay, Tom and tomato. Let's see what happens here. All right, we're going to go ahead and run these 2 things. The first one is going to be Tom, which is 3 letters. Come in here, it's going to hit this if statement, and it's going to get that, hopefully, that last character and then print it out. M is what we're looking for. We're seeing M as the last character. Awesome. And then it finishes up its cycle. Then we're going to come down to your line 22. It's going to call Kyle's function again. We come in here. This one for tomato, it's going to be greater than 3, hence it's going to hit this else statement. It's going to slice 3 of them off, hopefully, prints it out to the screen. We see Tom, that is 3 characters. We are good into this point. I'm going to pause for a moment. Any questions on this? No? I'm not getting even one frustrated face. Come on, it's 9:30 and we're going through like headache. I was thinking like headbangers for a second. It's like, it's not rock music. I don't know. My mind's gone. Okay, let's keep going here. If there are no questions. Characters. Use a template literal to return the phrase, we put the blank in blank. Fill the first blank with the modified string and then I get it. That's hilarious. And fill the second blank with the original string. I get it now. All right, we'll call it fun phase. That's funny. I like what they call it. I wish they would tell us a little bit more what they would do there. All right. So it looks like we are going to be using both string and last character if it's less than 3, and first 3 character is greater than 3 to create our temperate literal. So let's go and write our temperate literal here. Say const message equals, and then I've used that backtick there.
So you misspelled phrase in your function name.
No, I wanted phase.
You want it to be phase? Oh, okay.
Yeah, it was a test. Did I spell it right now? Yeah, phrase. Yeah, I got it. We're good. We're good. All right, we put the quotes. I believe they're going to want us to put the they put the ta in tomato. So I think this means like put the first thing. Oh, we need to put something there in, and I believe it's then quotes, that $, and then str. So whatever the original string was. But my problem is that, okay, I need to put something in here. Now, if I put in last char, would that work?
It only works if it is less than 3. The string is less than or equal
Take a very
to.
close look. Where's last char exist? Whose curly brackets do they exist in?
In the str.length less than or equal to 3.
Well, whose curly brackets do they
Exactly.
exist in, though? The if statement.
If statement.
So when we go out of someone's curly brackets, does it remember the information? It does not. When we leave a for loop, whatever variables are in that for loop, it's dismissed. If we're in an if statement, we can declare a variable. When we leave the if statement, its information gets dismissed as well.
So we need to return something?
Now return something, but instead create a variable outside of the if statement so we can remember it even when the if statement is done executing. So we'll say, let, I don't know, split chars or something like that. I don't know. I don't even know what you would call that. Split chars. We're going to just create empty quotes just for a moment there. And what we're going to do then is set it so outside of the if statements, we can still remember what we created. So remember, inside those curly brackets, if we declare a variable in anybody's curly brackets, if we declare a variable, the second we're outside of those curly brackets, they're forgotten. But as long as it, think of it as like inner, like if you ever think of the Russian doll, a big doll within a little doll within a little doll. That's exactly how it goes with the curly brackets. If you're outside of those curly brackets, it's forgotten, but as long as you're still within them, that information is remembered. So split chars now can be actually remembered even after the if statement. So now we can actually run this. And just to prove that I'm not lying to y'all, I'm going to go ahead and just run this real quick. This is using last char in the temperate literal. If I run this, I'm going to get that reference error. Last char is not defined. So remember, if we're outside those curly brackets, everything is forgotten that was within them, if it was declared there. So I'm going to go ahead and turn that back. All right, everything's there. We have split characters. It's now being set within those if statements. Now let's go ahead and run this. Nope. Well, can't really run anything if it's not being returned, right? So I'm going to return our message now. So we actually get our phrase back. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to console log whatever's returned from this function right here. Awesome. All right. Let's go and just do the tomato. We run this and look at our message that we just got. We put the Tom in tomato. Awesome. Look at that. I took my dang. I love this hat. I can't throw it away. But look at that, though. We got the message back correctly. We took out those first 3 characters. We said in and then the full word, whatever that string was originally, which is tomato. So awesome. Any other word we want to practice with here?
Funeral.
Oh my gosh. I have seen a bumper sticker like that. Funeral. Oh my gosh. But that is still working. We're going to go ahead and do what we put the fun in funeral. We're going to go ahead and put one more in there. We're going to go ahead and just do a 3-letter word there. This is for a personal one. Awesome. We put the T in eat. Cool. Look at us. I'm trying to totally go get like a chocolate chip cookie or something after this. I'm really feeling it. All right. it looks like this is working properly. Let's go ahead and one more thing just to make sure here. We're all good there. Now test your function, outside the function, initialize that. That's exactly what we're doing there for part E. All right. Perfect. It looks like after that, we go back to the studio here. That is all done. Oh gosh, okay, now test our functions. Yeah, we did that. All right. Ooh, this one is a fun one. Okay, do not know, they just gave us a bunch of bonus missions. Never mind, Kyle, you might not be getting that cookie tonight. All right, let's keep going here. One more time. We now tested our functions. We call the function, define string, initialized it, function rock, call your function, then print the return phrase. All right, we did number 5 also. So we are good there. So up until that point now, any final questions before we move on to number 6? All right, let's move on to number 6 then. The area of the rectangle is equal to its length times width. Define a function that is required with the required parameters to calculate the area of a rectangle. The function should return the area, not print it. Call your area function by passing 2 arguments, the length and width. If only one argument is passed to the function, then the shape is a square. Modify your code to deal with this case. So use number literal to print the area is blank centimeters squared. Okay. Perfect. Let's go ahead and do this. I open up the repl here. I'm going to go fork it in the top right as always. Cool, cool, cool. So the area of a rectangle, we're going to go ahead and start by creating a function that says, well, function calculate area. It says it's going to take in 2 parameters. It's going to take in a height and a width. Awesome. All right. If only one argument is passed to the function, then the shape is a square. Modify your code to deal with this case. All right. Not a problem there. So what they said is area equals height times width. Cool, cool, cool. But area times, so all we had to do really, if we wanted to, is that we need to return. It said we don't want to print the area, we want to return the area. So what we would just do is return height times, or excuse me, wow, height asterisk, which is for multiplication, then width there. So cool, this would technically be the only thing we would really need to do for this. But we kind of have an issue where what if height or width is not supplied? It automatically becomes a square. So we need to take this into account. Now, how can we check if something is something? How can we validate something? If, very good. We use conditionals, if statements to validate something. Is height, is width actually passed in? Those are questions. If you're asking yourself a question, you are most likely needing to use an if statement. I pinky promise that. So we need to check, is height provided? So if height, well, in this case, we're going to see if it's not provided. In that case, we're going to have to deal with a square. So if height equals, and if not provided means nothingness. Nothingness is what word? Who remembers? Starts with a U. I'll give that hint.
Undefined.
Undefined, very good. If height equals undefined, if you are familiar with other languages, null and undefined can kind of be synonymous, except that undefined is more popular in JavaScript. Height equals undefined means it's not defined. But we also need to see, is width defined though? So I'm going to see, is height not defined, but height, or width, or excuse me, is height not defined, but width is defined? So at least we have some number. So then just pass in like empty, like whatever, empty parentheses and stuff. So is height defined equals undefined, and width does not equal undefined. So this means height is not defined and width is defined. In that case, what I want to do here is make it a square. If my width of a square is 5, what is my height?
Same.
Exactly right. So what I would do here is that I'd redefine my height to be my width.
Equals width, right?
Exactly right. Now, what I want to keep doing is that checking the next case. So I'm going to do an if, else, if, because it's the same kind of case. Is my height not equal undefined? And my width undefined? Unmove these things so it doesn't look weird. In that case, I need my width to be assigned or reassigned to my height to make it a square. So this right here is how we can protect against those two cases. Let's go ahead and take a quick look at that.
So can I ask, how would that work if it's asking for two pieces of information? If there's only one, does it not assume that that is assigned to the first parameter?
No, it will. It will. We'll take a look at this. Let's. I think it'll be better if I write it out. So let's go and take a look at that.
Okay.
So we'll say calculate area, and let's make the first case true. So that means height is not defined. In that case, I would say undefined for the first parameter, and then 5. Then let's take this is going to be the first case. The second case would be calculated area. Say 7 and nothing. That automatically will have width undefined. This would make the second case true. Its equivalent would be 7 and undefined. If you pass nothing in the parameter, or you pass no argument in there for that particular slot of information, then it's just assumed undefined.
Right.
So any questions on this before we actually see it printed out? We're gonna first console log this one right here. And at the same time, I'm just gonna remove these two cases and just comment them out for the time being. Yeah. We run this, and we see that undefined and 5 times 5 is 25. So we're getting the correct area back. Let's go and see it flipped. I'm gonna do 7 and undefined here. What is this one gonna be? Who's still got some brain cells left?
49.
Very good, yes, 49, awesome, awesome. And then one more case I wanna check here.
49 again.
49 again, very good. All right, let's get it a little bit trickier here. We're gonna test out the last case. What if height and width were both defined properly? What we got here?
106.
108.
108. I will still give it to you. Because I actually had to think about that for a second. I was like, does it go down or up? Yes, 108. So it looks like that area is working properly too. Finally, what it said it wanted us to do is put it in the temperate literal. So we're going to say const area equals that. And then we're going to print out our temperate literal right below it. Area is $ area centimeters or centimeters or something like that. We run that and we still get it. The area is 108 centimeters squared. And that right there is how we can do that. Now my question is, find a little Kyle extra fact. What would happen here? Ooh.
Oh no, nothing is
Undefined.
Bringing back this weird abbreviation. NaN. NaN. Not a number, because undefined is not a number. This is a very side note because you guys all stuck out with me. But you learned about undefined tonight. You know how number is a type? String is a type. Boolean is a type. Undefined is a type. And that type cannot be multiplied. Welcome to the world of JavaScript. It's weird. But yes, that is a little caveat I like to protect people from. But just to give you nightmares tonight, enjoy that one. All right.
So undefined is equivalent to, you said null. They use that in C, right? And
null is actually very universal. So null is actually down to assembly. So you'll see null everywhere. Undefined is more towards JavaScript. Null is kind of more everywhere.
I took a C++ class like 20 years ago, so some of it's still in there, rattling around in my head. So,
Yeah.
okay.
You know, as long as you know the concept of null, you know the concept of undefined. They both mean nothingness, but they are two different types. They are not the same, but they can be referred to kind of as the same kind of thing.
Gotcha.
Nothing.
Okay.
So how we can protect against this real quick, just to finally show this, else if one more condition, if height equals undefined and width equals undefined, then if both are undefined, they didn't give us anything, we automatically just return 0 as that area because we are not given any information. But we still want to give back a reasonable thing. So for that case, that is what we do there. Make sure I'm actually using the right stuff. Awesome. There you go. Can you guys hear me now?
Yes.
Fantastic. And I can hear you. Awesome. I thought I was going to time it perfectly to my headphones dying. Did not happen because I just want to give you so much information. All right. Everyone, that is all I have. Any final questions here about this studio? Okie dokie.
No. Thank you very much.
You want to do another 5 minutes? All right.
Thank you.
Have a good night.